what Māori is saying is, this is a country that we came to 1,000, 1,500, 2,000 years ago. We've been here a very long time. You came over here and we looked, we considered, and we invited you. And we invited you to come and live with us. But we are still who we are. We are still Māori. We are still mana whenua here. And Te Tiriti promised that would always be the same. I mean, you had the initial constitutional document, which is He Hakaputanga of 1835, that stated that really, really clearly that we were an independent nation. The British accepted that, and then that was re-articulated in Te Tiriti. So we have a right to be Māori in this country and to be who we are, but we always welcome others who come from elsewhere to be who they are as well.
Does Te Tiriti afford Māori, iwi and hapu different rights to non-Māori New Zealanders?
It gives us, or it recognises our right to be who we are. Yes. That's all it does.
Does it afford different rights, though, to non-Māori?
It's the way the treaty is written is that, and the way it's understood by Māori is that Pākehā, or the subjects of the British Crown, can come here, they can live under their own culture, they can, and in particular, the Queen must keep control of their lawlessness and stop their lawlessness. And so they can be who they are. And in exactly the same way, Māori will always be who we are. And this is our country where we have invited others to come in and we want to live with them in harmony. So that means that our responsibilities, we inherit a huge number of responsibilities because we are mana whenua, we are the indigenous people of this country. So we are responsible for the well-being, for example, of Papatūānuku. And each of our whānau and hapu and the places that we come from, we are responsible for those. So those are the sorts of responsibilities that we have to look after those things and to always pass them on to the next generation in as good or preferably better than they are now.
The question is, though, whether actualising the treaty and those principles in a modern democratic framework is possible without ascribing different rights to different people. I mean, take co-governance for an example, right?
Yeah, it's a lovely example.
So there would be some people who looked at the co-governance proposals under the last government's Three Waters Plan and say that it afforded Māori different rights to non-Māori New Zealanders, and that in a democracy, ultimately, it meant that one person no longer equalled one vote, which meant that fundamentally New Zealand could not be considered a democracy.
Yes, well, I guess you can argue that, but for co-governance, if I can just talk to co-governance, because what co-governance is about is that you will have those who have the technical skills, they're the people who live there, providing their skills for the management of a particular resource, and then you have mana whenua who are there, who have been there for 1,000, 1,500 years, who have another type of knowledge about that same resource. And what you're doing is you're bringing the best possible knowledge and information about that resource to the table and sorting it out together. And for the life of me, I can't see what's wrong with that you get the best possible information and expertise that you can get from everywhere, pull it together and make the best decisions on how to use it. And that's what co-governance was all about. And that's effectively can be applied to the rest of everything as well in terms of the treaty. You get the best of both worlds and you look after each other and take the best possible care of each other. I just have difficulty understanding why that's difficult to understand.
Opponents would say that one person, one vote is the measure of a democracy, and that proposals like that one for a co-governance structure under the last government's Three Waters Plan ultimately meant that Māori had a greater degree of representation, that non-Māori couldn't contribute to the appointment of Māori on those boards, and therefore you didn't have a one person, one vote governance system, which is the measure of democracy.
Well, yeah, there's democracy that people think of as one person, one vote. And then there's the democracy that we know of in the Māori world, which is it's for the people to decide. And those two are not the same.
Tell us about that. That's very important.
So in the Māori world, we make decisions by consensus. And this is something that used to fascinate the early Europeans who came here, was that we would sit there seemingly forever trying to make a decision. And that's because everybody must have a say. And at the end of the day, the decision you make is based on all the information you can get, no matter where it comes from. Everybody who has an interest has a say. And then you make a decision by consensus. And those sorts of decisions will hold because everybody will take responsibility for them. Whereas the one person, one vote, which is a very British, European way of thinking of things, that's a case where you can have 51% who say yes and 49% who say no, and you're always going to be arguing with each other, which is what we see in the Parliament at the moment. quite frankly, I'd rather do the consensus stuff, because once your decision is made, that's it. It's made. And you don't spend forever after that batting it backwards and forwards, because the decision is not a decision that holds.
So in your view, New Zealand should be, Aotearoa should be a consensus type democracy rather than a one person, one vote type democracy.
I think we would do much better if the country agreed, all of the country agreed as best we can. And we do have mechanisms within that consensus making that I saw my old people doing, where they'd go, well, this is what I think, but I will go with what the people say. And if we could have that in this country, we would make huge progress.
And just to be totally clear, in your view, governance of New Zealand, especially if we are to live up to the Treaty of Waitangi Te Tiriti, is inconsistent with a one person, one vote type democracy.
The way that I see the one person, one vote working, it seems to end up with a very unbalanced situation, where you have decisions being made that large parts of the country just hugely oppose and are very, very unhappy about. Whereas if you had a consensus way of deciding things, you get people buying into the decision.
You argue in the book that only those elected in Māori seats have a mandate to represent Māori. Why is that?
Because they are there to represent Māori. All the others who are very proud these days to say that they are of Māori descent, and we have a record number of Māori MPs at the moment, are actually in there either at the behest of their electorate or at the behest of their party. But also, in actual fact, the Māori MPs themselves are also in there under their parties as well. But it's only the 7 Māori MPs who are elected by Māori to represent them.
But almost half of the adult Māori population vote in general seats.
Yes, I know.
So they shouldn't expect any Māori representation.
The ones I speak to who do this sort of thing, the view seems to be that their vote's not going to make much difference in the Māori side, and they will try to make a difference in the Pākehā electorate. So because we do need to have people in Parliament who do understand where Māori are coming from, because Parliament by and large, well, Parliament was set up for Pākehās, and in order for Pākehā to be able to understand where Māori are coming from, you need Māori in there. And so a lot of my relations will try to get Māori in there in the hope that they can make things clearer.
It was my sense that throughout the book you used the number of Māori MPs and the number of Māori cabinet ministers as a sort of measure or proxy for a government's broader attitudes to Māori rights at the time. And as you mentioned, I think we have more Māori MPs at the moment than we've ever had in the Parliament. The current cabinet includes 8 ministers who whakapapa Māori, iwi leaders, fluent Te Reo Māori speakers. And you say this is an anti-Māori government. How can that be?
Very muchly so. So you've got a government at the moment that right from the outset said that it was going to strip Māori of our rights, and they were quite unashamed about that. And they've certainly done that.
How so?
They closed down Te Aka Whai Ora, the Māori Health Authority. They, in local government, they've said that there will be referendums over Māori Māori councillors, but not over others, ward councillors. They've stripped out funding, over $1 billion they've stripped out of various social welfare packages. The amount of legislation that has been changed to strip out anything to do with the treaty, anything to do with Māori, has been quite stunning. And that's why the Waitangi Tribunal has been working overtime for the past 2.5 years trying to deal with the urgency of this legislation that is just stripping us of rights. So I think there have been 7 or 8 hearings in the last year or last couple of years just on the urgency of the legislation being passed to strip Māori of our rights. There's a huge number, Jack. I would have to get the book out and read out what they all are. There are so many of them. And for that reason, there's a lot of pain in the Māori world because we are suffering quite badly from this.
It's